Welcome back everyone. Now in this lecture, we will learn about the for loop. Now I have written a very simple program so that you guys understand this concept very easily. Let's take a look. Okay, so to start off, I want you guys to pay real attention here because this is a very tricky concept. The for loop contains three parts. Okay, it contains three parts and that's how it operates. The first part, we are declaring the variable that we'll use in the for loop. Okay, so you know, or you already know what a variable is, right? So the for loop will have a variable which will keep on changing until a specific condition is reached, and once that condition is failed, the loop will stop working. So the first thing we need when we are writing a for loop is we need a variable that will control the for loop, and that is our first part. If you observe, you can see that int I equal to 1. Now I is the variable that we'll be using in the for loop. Okay, so first step is to declare a variable which we'll use in the for loop inside the brackets of the for loop. Second step is to provide a condition. So it already told you that a loop repeats a statement again and again and again until a condition is failed, because there must be an exit condition. Otherwise, if there is no condition, that means that loop is running forever. We don't want that. We want the loop to end, right? So the second part of the loop is a condition, and once that condition fails, the loop will no longer work. So the second part of our for loop is a conditional statement, which is in this case I less than or equal to 5. So that basically means that the loop will stop working when the value of I exceeds 5. So as long as it is less than or equal to 5, the loop will keep on running, but once the value exceeds 5, it will stop working. And the third part, the first part was initialization, right? So we made a variable that we'll use in the loop and we gave it a value which was 1. Now I told you that the second part is a condition part, which means that the loop will run as long as the value of I is less than 5. Now we need something to change the value of I. Why? So suppose there is no change in the value of I, it means that the value of I will remain 1 forever, right? Nothing is changing it, that means the value will always remain for 1. And 1 is always less than 5, that means that the loop will never end. So we need to change the value of I, because if there is no change in the value of I, it means that the loop will keep on running forever. So we need to update the loop variable. So that is what our third part of the for loop does, that is update the loop variable. Every time the loop body executes, the update statement will update the value of our loop variable. So what will happen first is that the value of I is 1. So Java will check if the value of I is less than 5, less than or equal to 5. Yes, 1 is less than or equal to 5. That means that the loop will run, and it will go ahead and check the loop body. You can see it here. You can see it here. This is our loop body. And it will go ahead and print Java. Now, the update statement, which will update the value of I and make it 2 this time, because we are incrementing or increasing the value of I by 1. That means the current I value is 2. Is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes, obviously. So it will print Java again. And this will keep on repeating until the value of I is 6. Because when the value of I is 6, it will check if 6 is less than or equal to 5. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No. That means that the loop will end right there. That means the loop will work for conditions where I is equal to 1, I is equal to 2, I is equal to 3, I is equal to 4, and I is equal to 5. That means that the loop will run 5 times, and when the value of I becomes 6, it will stop working. Let's run this to make sure everything works. You can see that we get 5 outputs. Alright, so that is basically how a for loop works. I'll repeat again. For loop contains 3 parts. The first part is the initialization of the loop variable. Now the loop variable is what we will use throughout the loop. The second part of our for loop is our conditional statement. As long as the condition is satisfied, the loop will work. When the condition fails, the loop ends right there. The third part will be our update statement, which will update the value of our loop variable. One last thing before we end this lecture is that instead of writing I equal to I plus 1, you could simply write I plus plus. They both mean the same thing. Okay, so that is basically how a for loop works. The for loop will keep on working as long as the conditional part of the for loop is true. And once the condition fails, Java will exit out of the for loop and proceed with the rest of the statements of the program. So I hope for loop is very clear to you. In our next lecture, we will learn more fun things about for loop. So I'll see you there. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day. Now in this lecture, we will learn more fun things about the for loop. Now in our previous lecture, I told you that the for loop contains three parts, right? The initialization of the loop variable, the condition part, and the update part. Now, there are different ways of implementing these parts. I told you the first part was the initialization of the loop variable, right? So there is a way in which you could do this outside the for loop. Suppose you want to use a already existing variable inside the for loop, you could do that by just initializing it before the for loop. Now it will only work if you have defined and initialized the variable before the for loop. Doing it afterwards makes no sense because Java doesn't know what I is at this point. So we must do it before the for loop. So in this case, we have defined our loop variable outside the for loop. And one thing to remember is that you could bypass the loop variable definition part, but you cannot skip the semicolon. You need to add the semicolon, and the for loop will not work without the semicolon. So make sure that whenever you skip entering the loop variable inside the for loop part, make sure you add the semicolon, because without the semicolon, the for loop will not work. Okay, now what if you want to skip the update statement? Now if you want to skip the update statement, you could do it by just removing it and updating it within the loop body. The program works the same. Now you must be wondering, hey, what if there is no conditional statement? Let's see that. Now let's try running this. You can see that the program keeps on running forever. Now this is what we call an infinite loop. The only thing that stops the loop from running is the conditional part. So if you skip the condition part, the loop will keep on running forever and we'll get an infinite loop and the program will never end. So make sure whenever you write a for loop, make sure that a condition exists and there should be a chance for the condition to be false, because if the condition will never be false, that means that the loop will keep on running forever and we do not want that. Okay, so these are some of the ways in which you can use the for loop. So what we learned in this lecture was that instead of making the loop variable part, the condition part and the update part together, you could do it separately using this method. But always make sure that you provide a conditional statement, because without the conditional statement, our project or our program will be an infinite loop. Alright, so in our next lecture we will learn about while loop. I'll see you there.